Most retirees think they're playing it safe, but right now the safe asset could be the most dangerous one in your entire portfolio. If you're saving for retirement, you're not trying to get rich. You're trying to protect what you built. You want stability, predictability, income you can count on. The biggest fear isn't missing out. It's losing purchasing power after decades of disciplined saving. And here's the thesis. In a late-stage debt cycle, long-duration government bonds, the asset most people call safe, may quietly carry the greatest long-term risk for retirement savers. That sounds counterintuitive. Bonds are supposed to reduce volatility. They're supposed to provide income. They're supposed to be the ballast in the portfolio. But safety is not about labels. Safety is about mechanics. If an asset guarantees nominal payments while the currency itself is being diluted, you're not eliminating risk, you're transforming it. You're exchanging volatility risk for purchasing power risk. And most retirees don't measure risk in the right unit, they measure it in price fluctuations. But in retirement, the real unit of risk is, will my money buy what I need it to buy 10, 20, 30 years from now? In past cycles, bonds were a reliable hedge because inflation was falling and debt levels were manageable. Today, we're in a structurally different environment, one defined by high debt, persistent fiscal deficits, and constrained central banks. That changes the equation entirely. And to understand why, we need to step back and look at how the economic machine actually works. Let's simplify this. The economy is not random. It functions like a machine, and at the center of that machine is credit. Credit is simply spending power pulled forward from the future. When you borrow, you're accelerating demand today in exchange for repayment tomorrow. That creates cycles. There are short-term cycles, typically 5 to 8 years, driven by interest rate changes. And then there are long-term debt cycles, often 50 to 80 years, driven by the accumulation of debt relative to income. We are not in a normal short-term fluctuation. We are late in a long-term debt cycle. Here's what that means in simple terms. Debt to GDP levels are historically elevated. Governments owe large sums relative to their economic output. To service that debt, they either need growth, higher taxes, spending cuts, or currency devaluation. Historically, when debt levels get too high, policymakers choose the path of least resistance. They keep rates lower than inflation for extended periods. That's called financial repression. Let me translate that. If inflation runs at 4% and bonds yield 3%, you are losing 1% per year in real purchasing power, even if your account balance appears stable. This is where many retirement savers misunderstand risk. They see a steady bond price and assume stability. But if real returns are negative, the stability is optical. And here's the second layer. When debt levels are high, central banks have less flexibility. They can't raise rates too aggressively without destabilizing the system. So they're often caught between controlling inflation and maintaining financial stability. That tension creates structural pressure. Now, let's examine the health indicators. Because the numbers tell a very clear story, if the economy were patient, here's what the lab results would show. First, debt to GDP. In most developed economies, government debt relative to output is near multi-decade highs. Historically, when debt exceeds a nation's growth rate for extended periods, it limits future policy flexibility. Second, fiscal deficits. Structural deficits mean governments are spending more than they collect, even outside recessions. That requires continuous borrowing. More supply of bonds entering the market increases pressure on yields unless central banks intervene. Third, interest rate normalization. After over a decade of ultra-low rates, the system became conditioned to cheat money. When rates rise, asset valuations adjust. Long-duration bonds are particularly sensitive to this because small rate changes have amplified price effects. Fourth, inflation persistence. Even when headline inflation cools, structural components, housing, labor costs, geopolitical supply disruptions tend to stick. Inflation doesn't need to be double digits to erode purchasing power. Even moderate inflation compounds significantly over retirement horizons. Fifth, currency dilution. Over long periods, fiat currencies lose purchasing power as money supply expands. This isn't conspiracy, it's arithmetic. Now, what do these indicators signal historically? When debt is high and inflation is structurally above target, real bond returns tend to be compressed for extended periods. Not because governments default, but because they inflate away liabilities. That's the key distinction. Retirement savers often think bond risk equals default risk. But in developed economies, the greater risk is silent erosion. It's death by 1,000 basis points. And when you combine sequence of returns risk with negative real yields, the impact compounds. We've seen this pattern before. This is the same movie, just different actors. Let's look at history. In the 1940s, after World War II, government debt levels were extremely high. Policymakers kept interest rates capped while inflation ran above bond yields for years. Bondholders were repaid, but in depreciated dollars. The mechanism wasn't default, it was repression. In the 1970s, inflation surged again. Bond investors experienced deeply negative real returns. Nominal payments continued, but purchasing power collapsed. If you were a retiree living off fixed income, your lifestyle adjusted downward, even if your statement looked stable. Then look at Japan in the 1990s and 2000s. Ultra-low yields for decades meant investors accepted minimal return for perceived safety. That worked in a deflationary environment, but it required persistent stagnation to justify it. Today, we don't have the same demographic or geopolitical backdrop as Japan. We have supply chain fragmentation, fiscal expansion, and strategic competition globally. Each historical case is different in details, but the mechanics rhyme. High debt, policy constraints, financial repression, gradual purchasing power transfer from savers to debtors. That's the pattern. And here's what most people miss. The greatest danger in retirement isn't volatility. It's believing that yesterday's safe asset automatically protects you in tomorrow's cycle. Now let's talk about why this becomes especially dangerous for someone saving for retirement. The first issue is sequence of returns risk. When you're accumulating wealth, volatility hurts. But time is on your side. When you're withdrawing, timing matters much more. If real returns are negative early in retirement, even modest inflation can permanently reduce the sustainability of your income stream. Bonds are often positioned as the stabilizer in that equation. But if yields are below inflation for extended periods, that stability becomes deceptive. You're not losing in price, you're losing in purchasing power. The second issue is duration risk. Long-duration bonds are highly sensitive to changes in interest rates. A small move upward in yields can create outsized price declines. In an environment where governments are issuing large amounts of debt to fund deficits, the supply dynamics alone can put upward pressure on rates. That means your safe asset can experience meaningful volatility precisely when you need stability. The third issue is complacency. Traditional portfolio models were built during a multi-decade decline in interest rates. Bonds performed well because yields were falling. Falling yields mean rising bond prices. That tailwind lasted for 30 to 40 years. We cannot assume that environment repeats. If yields are structurally higher or inflation structurally sticky, bonds no longer provide the same hedge characteristics. And here's something critical. If this breakdown is helping you think differently about risk, subscribe, because understanding cycles changes everything. Now, the point is not that bonds are useless. The point is that risk is contextual. An asset can be safe in one regime and dangerous in another. So the real question becomes, how should you think about retirement risk in this environment? The first shift is mental. Start thinking in real returns, not nominal ones. A 4% yield means nothing if inflation is 4%. What matters is purchasing power over time. Second, understand diversification properly. Diversification is not about owning many assets. It's about owning assets driven by different economic forces. Growth, inflation, liquidity, productivity. These drivers don't move together all the time. If every asset in your portfolio is sensitive to the same interest rate regime, you're not diversified, you're concentrated. Third, stress test for inflation persistence. Ask yourself, if inflation averages 3 to 4% over the next decade instead of 2%, what happens to my fixed income stream? What happens to my lifestyle? Fourth, separate liquidity from safety. Cash is liquid. But if held long enough during inflationary periods, it erodes. Bonds are structured. But if real yields are negative, they slowly transfer wealth away from savers. Safety is not about calm price charts. Safety is about resilience across scenarios. And finally, extend your time horizon thinking. Retirement can last 20 to 30 years. Small annual erosions compound into significant real losses. The goal is not to chase returns. The goal is to protect purchasing power across cycles. That requires humility. It requires recognizing that we may be in a structurally different phase than the one that built traditional retirement playbooks. And that leads to the final principle. Every cycle changes what safe means. In some periods, bonds are a shield, and others, they're a slow leak. The mistake most investors make is assuming that yesterday's solution automatically works tomorrow. But debt cycles evolve, monetary regimes shift, inflation dynamics change, and when they do, risk migrates. It hides in places that feel familiar. If you're saving for retirement, your job isn't to eliminate volatility, your job is to preserve purchasing power. Because in the end, stability without real return is just quiet erosion. And quiet erosion is still loss.